What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the FailEd Podcast. Here we go again. I love sitting down and having great conversations. I think that's what motivates me in life. As I get older, that's what I'm learning. That's why I wake up, because I want to have great conversations. Obviously, I have more depth to me than that, but I enjoy great conversations with people, and I love unexpected interactions, and that's kind of the way my next guest and I met. We were at a meeting for some Fort Worth business, and everyone was kind of running. And the funny thing, you were even running when I saw you. And I was like, who's that guy? Watch my car. No, I'm joking. No, but I saw you running by, and I noticed you. And then I was like, where did he go? Where you went in the same building I'm going? And towards the end, we connected. You came up to me, and we talked for a second. And then, and here we go, man.
Yes, sir.
I want to welcome Luis Lopez.
What's going on, everywhere?
From Fostepco. That, believe it or not, that's hard to say until you read it. You got to see the letters. Yeah. If not, I think people are reading different words when they say it.
Oh, yeah.
And so Fostepco, it's a creative business space concept here in Fort Worth, Texas. You're running a lot of things out of there. We're going to talk about those things. You have a No Small Talk podcast that you've done a few times. And so I listened to a few of those. And then how do you pronounce this? It says Crooked2th Studios?
So it's Crooked2th.
Crooked2th Studios. I'll have the description and the proper spelling in the description below. But that just taps into just a little bit of what you do. And so, first of all, welcome to the FailEd Podcast. Thank you for accepting our invitation.
Oh, thanks for having me. Pleasure.
From the moment that you gave me your flyer and you're like, hey, man, let's connect, I felt something. Yeah. And then I saw you and I said, this is a cool dude. Like, I like connecting with cool people. So I was like, he's a cool dude. Let me reach out to him. And you were very friendly to me. And I kind of invited myself to your space. And you're like, yeah, come through. Our schedules aligned. Everything was moving fast that day. And I came through and I got to see you in your environment. And so with people, typically you don't get to see them in their environment. Yeah. And to me, that's like when you're having conversation and you're trying to connect someone, that's next level. And so I kind of got to know you more than I know you because I walked around in all of your studios and your other businesses that you run in there. And it's been a long journey getting to where you're at. So we're not going to start there. That's just like a little teaser, of who you are today. But we're going to start. First of all, say hello, introduce yourself, whatever. If you want to plug something, do that right now. And then we're going to get into your life story. And I'll prompt you after you say hello to our people.
What's going on, everybody? My name is Luis. Some people call me Fo. It comes from the music. And so I'm basically... I like to consider myself just a creative. I like to bring visions to life. Everything starts with a thought and a way to manifest it and make it a tangible, not only item, but just an idea to be able to share with people. Yeah. And it's been since I was a little kid. Just started drawing and got into the music game, videography, making clothes. Slow down.
So you're giving them too much too fast.
Yeah.
Now,
there's a lot there.
If you're watching, you see all this stuff in the middle. That's the stuff that he does. Some production, some branding, some creations, and so that's why you see that there. He brought that in. So if you see that, you can find all that in his website, which will be in the description below. And in the beginning, I had to say this because when you're having a conversation, there's things that you say and you're like, okay, Sam, you shouldn't have said that. Right. But if you do say it, at least clarify. Yeah. And in the beginning, I was running around and I saw you. And I was like, who's that? I need to watch my car. And I was just, there was no ill intent. Yeah. I live with the same thing. You know what I mean? When people see me, they, whatever. No, I get it. But anyway, nothing but love. I needed to fix that. I didn't want no one to kind of tell me, Sam, what is wrong with you?
It's all a little humor.
Yeah. You got a friendly face and you've been friendly to me. And so we'll go ahead and start with that. Usually some of our best attributes come from our our parents and our upbringing. It's before we know anything. We're just kind of living life and doing life. And so I want to go back to how you grew up. What was your home life like? You talked to me a little bit about your dad, but how did you grow up? Where are you from?
So born and raised in Fort Worth in the Diamond Hill area, which used to be called Fostepco Heights, which is where the name come from. But I grew up with traditional Mexican parents, straight from Mexico, and very rigid rules in the house, be home before the street lights turn on. And yeah.
How fast did you break those rules?
Oh, it's, that's pretty much what got me to where I'm at. Is at a certain point, I was like, if I abide by all of these rules, I will never get to experience life as, one should. And so...
I love you, Mom.
Yeah. Nothing but love for my parents.
I was having to do a disclaimer because we're so hard on our parents, but it's just looking back.
Yeah.
So you say traditional, and I talk to a lot of Latinos, and when we say traditional, I'm guilty myself, man. I'll be like, man, my dad was traditional. He was strict and... But there's more to it in a traditional Latino home. What are some of the good things, right? What are some of the things that you're like, man, when I don't know if you have a family or not, what are you going to pass on? What do you want to not go away as we grow in new cultures and we have new experiences? But what are some of those traditions that you did experience that you remember to now and you're like, I'm going to keep that alive, or I love that a lot?
Basically, I always look back now and I appreciate just the way they instill like strong family values into us, hard work, and like in this life you gotta work for what you want, and the willing to be able to go above and beyond, and like I said, hard work, and to reach your goals, and knowing that nothing is handed to you, and everything comes with a struggle. So growing up, like we mentioned, growing up with all those rules, it felt, it developed some teenage angst and you want to rebel and all that stuff. But nowadays I look back at it and I'm like very grateful that that's how I was raised, because I look around me and you notice the lack of that in a lot of people that didn't have, very loving parents, and weren't lucky enough to be raised in a home that was, just revolved around love and supporting each other. And
well, looking back, you think about your mom. What does she do or teach you that she would never have no clue that she did? That you like you just want her to know. What are some of those things?
I would have to say.
And I mean, like, she didn't say, hey, comb your hair, brush it. Not like that. Like, just from watching and observing her as a person. What were some of those lessons?
Just being charming, being a nice person, and being approachable. She was always really big on presentation and, no wrinkles on your clothes and this and that. And I still don't really, I won't iron my clothes, but I pay attention to how I present myself. Yeah,
So what does she say about that when she sees you now?
Nothing but compliments really now. It's grown to where they're proud of me, and I see it and I feel it. But it took a long time to get there. A lot of questioning. What are you doing? What's going on here? And how come you don't have to work? And what are you really doing? But it's I would say that has helped me a lot get to where I'm at, is having the attention to detail and paying attention to how you present yourself. And, that first impression means a lot.
So growing up, what were some of the failures or challenges that you had as a young person, whether it was stepping into your creativity or just like bumping into like all the rules and discipline that your parents had? What were some of those, and how have they shaped you for today?
Well, I would say, like, growing up in the north side, Fort Worth, we're in the hood.
We need a definition. We need a definition for some.
A neighborhood with struggles. But there's back then at least, times where people were a lot more closed-minded, you know, and so you're a little bit different and people are judging you, and whether it's making fun of you or questioning or anything, you're not like them, you're not dressing like them, and they kind of outcast you.
Were you made fun of growing up?
Yeah.
What was different? What was different about you?
Starting to wear the skinny jeans, skateboarding, listening to rock music and stuff like that. Everyone in the neighborhood was very big on, it was a hip hop, it was a gangster lifestyle, it was the Dickies sagging and all that stuff. And my dad would be livid if my pants were falling below my waist, you know. So there was a lot of that. But
our first expressions of self come through clothes, it seems like. It almost rings familiar to me as well. How did you tap into that? Like, was your creativity born through those connections as far as how you were dressing and moving?
Some of it, yeah. A lot of the creativity came from just seeing what was around me and maybe not aligning with that taste, so wanting to pave my own way, wanting to be different, wanting to express individuality.
Yeah.
But I remember growing up and seeing my dad had drawings. He had, in the living room, there's still this picture of two horses hugging each other, and it was like a love letter that he sent to my mom. And I remember seeing that, and I was like, oh, that's pretty awesome. Like, my dad can draw. Like, that's cool. And so I started meddling with it, and I was very interested in car design and astronomy and stuff like that. So I was drawing, like, spaceships and cars, and I wanted to design the next, you know, supercar. And not having, I guess, that fashion that I aligned with around seeing it around me, I think is what inspired me to create my own stuff. And so I was like spray painting on crew necks and just making my own mark on stuff.
At a young age, how old were you when you started doing this?
So I was like 12, 13 when I started. Just spray painting my clothes, decorating stuff differently. The kind of pants that I was wearing, the shoes and everything. I'm very inspired by the skateboard culture, the punk scene. And so just wanting to always be an individual and not fall into the norm of, you know, just following trends. And so it was a very big part of expressing that creativity is just being able to present myself how I want to be seen, and it's like, oh, you know, he thinks for himself. He, you know, not just doing stuff to be cool. Yeah. But making your own wave cool. Oh, yeah.
What was your relationship like with your dad? It seems like for the direction that you were going for at an early young, it's easy for dads to judge us and say, dude, he's lost. He's hanging around the wrong people. They don't connect it to, it's inspiring me. I'm trying to be different. I'm artistic. I like creating. They don't connect it to, they connect it to, it's those bad kids. He's hanging around with them, and that's when the change happened. So what was some of your dad's pushback at an early age, and how did you deal with it? Because we have to kind of go through that and then grow out of it. And so what was it like in the beginning? When did you see the tables start turning where your dad started understanding a little bit more?
I mean, till this day, he still kind of judges, and, you know, but he knows that
I can appreciate
I'm successful in my own way, so he doesn't give me a hard time anymore. But, you know, it was a lot of, why is your hair getting so long? Why are you shaving it all the way? You know, it was always something. Yeah. Why are your jeans so tight? Why are they hanging low? You know, it was constant criticism. And so that was very hard to grow up with, and to still have the will to keep being myself and not let that kind of break me and just fall in line. Mm-hmm. It took a lot, but I'm not sure what would have really like kept me going. It was just maybe stubbornness in my own self of like, nah, I'm gonna do what I want.
Because sometimes it's just a phase.
Yeah.
Like sometimes it is just following trends and then you grow out of it and you evolve into whatever. But for you, it didn't. It was an evolution. It was just the beginning of where you would end up. So in those early ages, what were some of the first things that like solidified, dude, this is not just the way I dress. This is the way I am. I'm unique and I like to be different, but it's going to lead to what I'm going to do in the future. You know, for me, for instance, like I grew up with like Saved by the Bell. I grew up with shows around that time. Yeah. And so they had an influence on me, you know? And so for you, what was it?
I think it was...
Everyone's going to think I'm a dork because I just referenced Saved by the Bell. Yeah. Don't hate.
Right.
Mario Lopez is still on TV.
So I think it would be... Because you're asking what
influences made you say, no, I'm secure in this because there's this guy, he's successful. There's this creator, he has a clothing line. Like, what were those things that just said, no, this is real and it's worth me investing, you know, myself into it?
Yeah, I think with the power of the internet, you know, being exposed to all of these artists, creative people that had success and came from similar backgrounds.
Yeah.
And reading on people's struggles and how it doesn't just happen overnight, but it takes a lot of hard work and constant beat down and getting back up. Yeah. I think seeing those success stories really helped me see that it was possible.
Yeah.
And just applying that work and seeing little things like just having an impact on the culture around me and people taking a liking to what I was doing and the clothes I was wearing, starting to make music and getting
What was first? What did you like? What did people get introduced to you first?
I think first was the art. I grew up doing graffiti, so a lot of that, having a positive response on the stuff that I was drawing, painting, and getting positive feedback kind of gives you a little bit of a push, like, okay, and it feels good, you know, when people, so I think a lot of it comes to having something inside of me that wants a little bit of attention, you know, maybe feeling overlooked, and even in the sense of, you know, being a minority in this country and having that response really helps you stick to it. Yeah. You know, it helps you see that, like, okay, something I'm doing is good, and there's maybe more here to, you know, to explore your own, to really get to know yourself and who you are.
You know, not being seen is such a strong statement. You know, my parents, I'm first generation, you're first generation. We kind of share that in common. So when you say that, for me, I see my parents not being seen. And I'm like, then when the way that I move, I make it like a purpose to say, I'm going to be heard and I'm going to be seen on behalf of my parents. I don't know what they wish they would have said or wish they would have been known for if they got exactly what I got, and, you know, being born here and everything. What do you feel like you want to leave behind? Like, why do you want to be seen now?
I would say I want to leave behind a positive impact on the way people see themselves and see the world, really, and having the tenacity to be able to overcome any obstacles that come in your way, and knowing the power of your mind and how you get in your own way, and just trying to inspire people to follow their own path and see that it's possible.
develop, you obviously work with a lot of people, whether it be music or coming together to make a brand or an image for them or creating just art. How do you deal with getting creativity, dealing with creative block? How do you deal with those things? How do you keep it going on a daily basis? Because it's one thing to say, oh, I'm creative, and when I am, I'll do. But you have to clock in every day. So that's like another level of tapping into that. How do you maintain that? How do you not worry about tomorrow's creativity?
So one thing, I'm very big on mind, body, soul. You know, the trio, you have to take care of one for the other, and they all work together. So I'm always telling people that the best thing for a creative, I mean, you gotta eat good to feel good to do good. Being active, you know, taking care of your body, taking care of your mind, taking the time for yourself, to get out of these little ruts. You know, everyone experiences some sadness and depression, and I think that's a big part of what holds some people back is, you know, you get a little depressed and you don't want to get up in the morning, and it's harder to get out of bed, and you just want to scroll through your phone. And, you know, so taking care of your mind and your body and your soul, like all of that, I think helps me keep it fresh and and not over stressing yourself, not putting too much pressure on yourself, but just kind of letting it come.
So out of all these things that you do, being graffiti was first, when did you start stepping into like the business side of it, right? And when that happened, do you remember a challenge in the beginning that you're like, man, this is the wrong path, or something that really got you down and it gave you some really valuable lessons, and now you look back and you're like, I'm glad I went through that lesson?
Yeah, so after making clothes and making music, I was having a lot of people coming to me and asking me, it's like, hey, where are you getting your stuff printed? That stuff's pretty sick. Where you, who's printing your shirts? Who's making your hats? Who's recording you? And, you know, I was like, okay, I have this many people asking me. I'm sending business, I'm sending money, you know, to these other shops. And like, yeah, sure, I want to support local and stuff, but I could, you know, cut the middleman out and start doing it myself. And so when I started selling a couple shirts and stuff like that and seeing the return make more sense than working a day job and stuff like that, because all it is you just got to be all right with some numbers. You know, if it makes sense on paper, there's no reason why it shouldn't translate into the real world. If you're covering all your loopholes in your plan and really being honest and critical of your ideas, and seeing that, like we mentioned earlier, like with some hard work, you know, and the right plan, like it's all possible. You can make a living doing anything. You can monetize anything really nowadays.
In the beginning, doing music or clothes, what were some of the early successes that even surprised you? Like, you know, it's hard to close your first deal. It's hard to like jump up from, oh, I do this for 100, now I'm gonna do it for times 10. Like those jumps are hard for a lot of people who are creatives or starting off. Can you recall one of those transactions that kind of you said, man, I was just kind of messing around here, but now I'm a businessman now?
Yeah. There was a time when I booked an artist to come do a show here in Fort Worth. It was about 2019-ish, 2018, and they were a pretty big underground artist, and I managed to get him in the studio, and he took a liking to some of my production, and that was maybe the first time that I was like, oh, okay, I got something.
Taste of the glory.
Yeah, you know, like if this artist that I've been watching and looking up to, like I was paying him to come do a show, and he likes my stuff, like there's like, okay, you know, maybe it doesn't suck, you know, and that's one side in the music part, but also in the clothes. I remember the first time I sold a jacket for like $180, $200, and it was just kind of crazy to me. I was like, because I mean, it takes you $20 or something to create this, and just some creativity. and seeing that amount of being able to, you know, make a decent
those are real numbers. I mean,
yeah, you know, with just because I mean, you sell 10 more of those and you got your check for the week. You know, some people are not making the same doing hard construction work.
Yeah,
and so seeing that, I was like, okay, maybe I can pay my bills with this. Maybe there is something to my creativity. You know, because you always have self-doubt. We all need a little bit of validation from the world around us. And so that pretty much validated to me, like, okay, there is something here.
Tell me a little bit more about self-doubt. How did it show up? Because right now, I mean, when I met you, you were showing me your space. You were very confident. Your aura was very confident. You were speaking to me. I was asking you questions. We were just kind of relaxing but talking. But I felt confidence from you because I could tell you put in some time. You put in some work. And so confidence kind of comes with that. But before all that got... You know, before you acquired all of that, what was this self-doubt? What did it look like? When did it like weigh on you heavy? And you're like, God, man, I don't know if this is it.
I always tell people, you know, and you always hear, fake it till you make it. So a lot of that confidence is just kind of, you know, I know, like I said, presentation, first impressions and all that.
Yeah.
So I know that people aren't going to want to follow or look up to somebody that's, you know, downing themselves all the time and stuff. Like, people want somebody who believes in themselves and a positive role model. So knowing that always reminds me when I'm having that doubt and stuff, it's like, if I don't believe in myself, why would anybody else? How can I convince the world to believe in this vision if I don't foolhardily, you know, like I'm not backing it? So a lot of it comes with that, but having that honest criticism of yourself, like we are our biggest enemy a lot of times. You know, our mind will do stuff that is not real.
Yeah.
So it'll make you feel things that don't really align with what the world, how everything really is. And so knowing that, I have to kind of like, you know, to shut off those first thoughts that, you know, that telling yourself like, I don't know if this is good enough. And
yeah, that's hard, dude. Like when I think about music, it's so hard to measure it, you know? And so like to play it and to hear it and you put effort and time into it, it's going to sound good to you because you're connecting it to the effort.
Yeah.
And then you hear someone who's just listening to it. Do you remember maybe because you produce music, you made beats and all of that, some of the first ones where you're like, that was, not that it was easy in the sense that it didn't have value, but you're like, I get it now. Yeah. And you put it together. Who heard it? Who would you feel confident sharing that stuff with? Because you need those people in your life. They say, hey, come through, you know, I'm going to push play, just jam out with me. But you know they're going to love you, but at the same time, they're also, you know, they're with you in your journey.
Well, the crazy thing about music to me is that you might have something that you're super proud of and took you a day or whatever to make it. But a lot of times what the art that resonates the most with people is the stuff that you kind of think is not good enough.
Yeah.
And so when that happens and people are resonating to something you created that you kind of don't feel too confident in, it's kind of like you learn that it's all subject to whoever, you know, beauty is in the eye of the beholder.
Yeah. So it's also like, don't judge it.
Yeah.
Like your job is just to make it.
Yeah, let the art, you know, you're just channeling something bigger than us and you just kind of let it speak to itself, for itself.
So a while ago, it was funny because the fake it till you make it is such a big quote, right? If anything, it's overused.
Yeah.
But here's what I want to get from you. We have an idea of what making it looks like before. How does that fake it till you make it you from back then match up to you now? And I'm asking because we get it completely wrong. You know what I mean? You're like, fake it till you make it. Then I make it, and I don't look nothing like that. Like, I'm more confident. My style's different. Like, dude, I had it wrong. I was emulating someone else, or I don't know. How do those two compare? How does your fake it till you make it line up to who you really are?
So, and like when I say fake it till you make it, I don't mean, and I don't think, I guess it means to be someone you're not, but to be the person who you want to be, even if you don't feel it. You know, like, I know who I want to be, and so everything I do is like taking steps towards that. But sometimes you don't feel it, like that confidence that, you know, you want to be the boss man, you know, you want people to see you and feel good, you know, and be proud of you and stuff like that is, you know, you might not feel that, but part of it is you got to believe it. And so you put yourself in those shoes and you kind of grow into it. And so,
like, you're not faking nothing now.
Yeah.
How do you describe yourself to yourself? Like, what makes you successful now?
I would say, like, for a lack of words, it's really just being yourself, and like we said, that confidence is I think what people resonate the most with, because I feel like people are scared to be themselves.
Yeah, people don't know how,
because there's too much judgment that comes with it, and so people don't want to be judged. People don't want to be made feel ugly or not creative, or, you know, all of these bad connotations that come with it. And so it's so much easier to just follow an idea, follow a train of thought, and to find stuff that you resonate and agree with. It's easier to say yes than to, okay, why? You know, like, explain what leads you to who you are, or why you have these ideas, and being sure of it, so when someone does question it, it doesn't just, like, fall apart.
Yeah.
You know, your ideas are based on real things that you believe.
What's helped you move around confident in yourself? I'll preface it by saying this. If you don't move around in different environments, you'll never know who your real self is. If you're in one environment, you just get used to it and you know how to function in that. But I met you already in 3 or 4 different environments, 3 already, at the meeting, at your studio, and here.
Right.
And I get the same vibe. And I feel like you got to move around different people, different places to figure out who you are and to move confidently in yourself. I think it helps.
Yeah, so I did some work, I would call it, and exposed myself just to a lot of different groups of types of people, whether it be in the skateboarding community, in the hip-hop, punk scene, rave music, being in corporate America, and, you know, working these jobs and with white-collar individuals, and putting yourself through all that, and you take a little bit from everything, and it kind of helps mold who you are becoming and who you want to be, and you kind of figure out, like, okay, I like these ideas here, but you don't necessarily have to, you know, just fit the part of anything. You can take little ideas from every different group that you are exposed to and express that in your own way.
So you're deep in music. I was watching some of your videos and music that you've produced. You got a lot of work under your belt. The state of the music industry is changing. I don't know if it's artists, if the internet, when these, you know, people that are becoming of age right now grew up in, contracts, digital sharing, I don't know. It's very, very complicated right now. So what's your general thought on the music industry? I'm asking because I see you as like a music head, being the producer and running what's some encouraging words for someone that's like trying to tap into this music thing, but everyone's saying it's no good, it's that's all this negative energy, but we still need music. It's still the background to so many of our life stories.
Right.
And I don't think that's ever going to go away.
Well, I think as the internet started growing and social media became a bigger thing, it became trendy to make music. And so a lot of people get into it, I think, with the wrong idea. Like, I want my viral moment.
Yeah.
You know, people just want the clout that comes with it. For myself, when I started, it was kind of before Instagram Reels and all that stuff. So I always remember when I'm having that doubt and low moments, I always remember why I started. And so keeping that close to my heart and remembering, okay, I started because how it made me feel, how it got me through moments. You know, I was always the kid in the hallways with my earphones on and just kind of kept to myself, and the music it helps heal, you know, and keeps you company. And so remembering what it did to me, for me, and helped me get through always reminds me, like, when somebody says they like a song, or, you know, you see your music getting plays, it's like, okay, I'm doing the same for other people. And so that's what keeps it going for me. It's not really, oh, I want to be famous. I want all the revenue that comes with it, the girls, the cars, you know, all that, the luscious lifestyle. It's really more just about keeping your motives, your intentions in line, and remembering, like, oh, this is helping other people.
Yeah.
You know, when somebody's sad or something, they might play this song to get through their day. And not only with sadness, but also with feeling good. You know, like, people are going to jam this one at the club, or, you know, when they're with their boys, they're cruising and they're playing your music. Those are the things that inspire me and keep me going. So I see the music industry and how it's all changing, and yeah, it does feel very, like, pretentious and, like, kind of superficial. But like I said, I had never started making music for that, or with those thoughts in mind. So when I create, it's always just about expressing myself and what I feel, and knowing that somebody out there will resonate with it, even if it's one person. You know, somebody will hear it, and it's going to change their thought. And as we know, like, everything starts with a thought, like we mentioned earlier. And so if you can manage to shift someone's thought into a positive way, and now they start talking to other people because they're in a better mood, and the butterfly effect really is what I'm saying. Yeah. Just how everything leads to another thing. And so you never know really what impact you've had, but it's there, even if you don't get to see it. Like I say, a lot of times I might not grow, I might not see the fruit of this tree, but I'll plant a seed for the next person to sit under the tree shade, you know?
Oh, yeah. How long have you been doing this? You said 2019 or before that?
So it was like 2013 when I started.
So it's been a minute.
Yeah.
Okay, let me see if I can get a good answer. Okay, so back then when you started, what were some of your goals? And then what are some of your goals right now? Because I just want to see the difference. Because back then, I don't even know if when we're young and we start something, if we respect goals as much as we do now. So I'm just wondering, what were some of your goals that you accomplished? And then, like, they were tough or they were super easy, and what do they look like now?
So when I started the Fostepco brand, and I would say my goal was to create a platform to be able to shine light on all the talent around me. Like, growing up, I always had very creative friends, and, you know, you see in the neighborhood, you hear about these people that, you know, oh, they do music, and you see them performing and all this stuff. But then you also see the decline of their creativity and how people can get burnt out, and it's because they don't end up feeling that accomplishment. And so my goal was to create a platform to be able to shine light on all that and help provide that kind of positive feedback to where people keep getting inspiration to create. And now that I'm where I'm at, I would say I have accomplished that to a degree, maybe on a local scale, but it's still a lot more that I want to grow it into like a international thing. And part of the goal was to be able to take people around the world and see how little we are here. You know, a lot of people never leave the neighborhood, and they don't get to experience all the different cultures and gain perspective on what it really means to be alive.
Yeah.
And so that's a big part of it, is enabling opportunities for experience.
Let's just say there's some parents that exist right now, and they literally have a young kid that's like you, that was like you when you were little, and they just don't get them. They don't understand them. What would you tell those parents to help them not kill that creativity or suppress them, or you just misdirect them?
Yeah.
What would you say?
I would say relax, take it easy. It's gonna be all right. You need to be able to see, I guess, your child's ideas and the way they're thinking, and instead of telling them it's wrong, you know, ask why or what thought process got them there, and try to understand really where they're coming from, rather than shutting it down and saying like, oh no, that's not good. You know, because they might be confused themselves and not know how to fully express themselves. And so, you know, we're throwing paint at the wall and seeing what lands, and we're drawing this and that, and expressing ourselves maybe in some aggressive ways sometimes that don't come off as, you know, as something you would want to spread. But you got to get those emotions out, and you got to let them feel what they feel to really grow from it and take it somewhere else. Because like I said, there's, especially if they're teenagers and stuff, like we mentioned earlier, there's a lot of phases that people go through. You got to get through all of that creativity to get to the next phase. So what might seem wrong in the beginning, you don't know where that's leading. Yeah. So instead of knocking somebody's ideas and stuff, is just try to encourage them to keep expressing themselves and see what that leads to.
Do you feel less creative now than you did when you were young? Because now you're like, have obligations, you have schedules, you have dates, you're working with people, you got to respect people's time and money. Do you sometimes like, man, I wish I was just free, or do you just feel better now? Is your creativity more harnessed, more focused, that it's more satisfying, or did you prefer it when you were young and it was still just kind of random, even if it wasn't random, but I mean, you were more free? Yeah,
honestly, I feel better than I ever have. Just growing up, like I said, like you're feeling all these things, and you don't want to be left out of groups, and you want to feel included and stuff, but you still want to express yourself how you want to, and you're not sure of who you are. People aren't sure who you are. Nobody knows. You know, it's a lot of confusion. And now that I've experienced all of that, gotten through it, and I'm still here creating, and people trust me with their visions and that sort of thing, is, honestly, I feel maybe more creative than ever. Yeah. You know, being and having the resources now to be able to express it and make more happen for myself or for others.
So there's been a few times where I've done a pod and the sound's off, or the memory card crashes, and it's kind of embarrassing, and I just have to figure it out. So I put up pods with no video, just the audio, or I've posted some with bad audio, and I'm just like, look, guys, it's called The Failed Podcast. I'm just showing you. It's not going to hold me back. I make mistakes. I'm not perfect, and I'll put it out there. I could EQ it and fix it, but I don't. What's a failure that you had, like in music or something, that you just had to eat, but you were okay with people kind of observing it, but you learned from it?
Learning to screen print myself was maybe one of the hardest things that
really
I could teach myself.
Yeah.
And it started because I was getting shirts printed by a local shop one time, and we had an argument over something dumb about how many colors were possible and this and that. And I left that conversation with the guy telling me, you'll never be able to screen print. And so that stuck in my mind and just kind of danced around in there. And, you know, I picked it up and I bought a machine and I started, and it took about a month of failing every day.
Yeah.
And experiencing that failure and being able to come back the next day and try again. And it felt like I would never get it right. But, you know, here we are now, and, you know, I print shirts all the time. That's what I do. But yeah, just having that constant like reminder and hearing those words in my head. And I put that out there for the world to see, you know, like I would go on live and kind of show my process, and people were watching me as I failed. But it was okay because I knew that eventually I had to get it right.
Yeah.
So that's one part of it. Another part would be booking an artist, throwing a show, and the turnout isn't as good as you would expect it. You lose some money, but you gain knowledge. You know, you learn from your mistakes, and you see, okay, this is why. And instead of just getting down about it, you know, you analyze and figure out why this happened, how it did, and looking for ways to improve. Just every area you can adjust to make the next successful. And it might not be the next one that's successful, but over time, a little baby steps, you know, will help you get there and get up.
Here at the Failed Podcast, I like to talk about people's failures and challenges to kind of encourage people. And although failure has a proper definition in the dictionary, what's the definition that you give failure for your life?
Well, I think, failure, I think it's thrown around loosely, and failure doesn't necessarily mean that something's never going to happen. Failure is more of an opportunity to grow. You know, if everything happened perfectly all the time, you would never learn anything. It'd be too easy. So failure, knowing that is just a byproduct of trying. You know, so it means you're trying, is what failure means to me. It means you're giving an effort and you're trying something different. You're getting out of your comfort zone. You're challenging yourself. So I would say failure is a good thing. You know, because like I said, it doesn't necessarily mean something is never going to happen. It just means you're trying and you're in the process.
That's good. I really enjoyed this conversation.
Yes, sir.
I like to give every guest an opportunity maybe to, for a final thought, or maybe you have a question for me, you sitting on that side. And if not, then we'll continue.
I guess the biggest thing I want to say is don't hold yourself back. Don't get in your own way. You will find reasons if you're looking for them. You will always find a reason why something can't happen, or why something's not going to happen, why something's going to go wrong. But on that same thought, if you're looking for a reason to make something happen, you can also find one. And so working on your perspective and how you see the world to enable the effort and give yourself a chance to try stuff, to get out of your comfort zone, is one of the biggest things that I live by. Is you gotta make yourself uncomfortable. For anything to get better, for you to get better at anything, whether it's drawing, whether it's making music, whether it's planning an event or whatever, you have to take that time and like we mentioned, like allow yourself to fail and don't be so critical on yourself. You know, like take some of the pressure off, is knowing it's not going to be perfect. You know, and knowing that beforehand, so it makes it easier to get back up.
Well, thank you for sharing that.
Yes, sir.
This is your opportunity to let people know how they can find you, but just know either way it's going to be in the description below, but I'll give you a few seconds if you want to give an ad or something.
Y'all can look us up, Fostepco, For the Benefit of All, streetwear apparel, record label, and Crooked2th Studios. We make it happen, anything you need, printing. Really, it's Creative Solutions Hub where we bring visions to life. You think about it, and we'll bring it to life.
Yeah, I agree. After everything I saw, he ain't lying. He's telling the truth. Guys, thank y'all so much for tuning into this episode of the Failed Podcast. I hope that you learned something. I know I did. And in life, just look for great conversations. And whenever you find yourself in one, just know there's an opportunity to learn. And if you're out there struggling, maybe you're hitting a roadblock in life and you're hitting a failure or a challenge, don't let it stop you, man. Let it be a teacher. Let it be a lesson. And thank y'all so much for tuning in. We'll see y'all on the next one.
Peace.